Welcome, everyone, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I'm joined this week by an old friend of mine. I hope this podcast doesn't just turn into like Hayden and his friends, but
you're friends with everyone, though.
Yeah, so. I guess. I don't know if that's a good thing, but old friend of mine, Taylor Merrill, owner of Green Machine Carpet Cleaning. Taylor, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you, dude. You're a client of ours at Spot On Solutions, and we're a big fan of what you've been doing, what you're going to continue to be doing. I like to live vicariously through you because you do a little bit of rodeoing too, you and your brothers, and it's been fun to kind of watch you do that, despite some injuries and some setbacks a little bit with that. We could talk a little bit about that too in the podcast at some point, but excited to have you on because you've kind of been able to grow this business, this carpet cleaning business, into like a full-time gig for you. And that's really kind of what I wanted to have you on and talk a little bit about. So maybe kind of talk to everyone a little bit about your background, who you are, kind of why you got involved into this carpet cleaning thing, what made you want to start a carpet cleaning company, kind of maybe talk a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Well, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2019, I just got done working at a ranch in Arkansas, and that didn't really end very good. All I've ever done is work on ranches and play cowboy, ride horses and stuff. And I wanted to be more than just a ranch hand. I wanted to eventually, I saw myself owning a ranch or managing one and whatnot. And so I was trying to find ranching jobs that would let me kind of do the business side of things. I know how to ride a horse and move cows, all that other stuff, but I want to do more. And I was trying to find a job that would let me do that. And I hadn't, all the ones that I were taking didn't end up being what I wanted to. And I kept kind of flaming out. And so I was kind of frustrated. And my dad talked to me about this carpet cleaning business. And he got it from Kenyon. Yeah. Kenyon Martin. Kenyon was telling him about there was a shortage of carpet cleaners or whatnot. And so my dad got to looking into it and whatnot. And then he came to me with it. And so anyways, my dad and I went partners on it. And so I did this because I wanted to learn the business side of things, so that I could take this knowledge and whatnot and use it towards buying a ranch or managing a ranch in the future. I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to do anymore, but I'm glad I did it because I know the business side and know what it takes to run a business now and whatnot. I never in a million years thought I'd be running a carpet cleaning business, second rug, but here I am. Life's kind of funny that way. But anyways, that's kind of how I got started into it is mainly because I wanted to use the knowledge I got from this business to transition into running or managing a ranch or whatnot. So
that's really cool, man. I think it speaks a lot to who you are, but also just like the skills that it takes to like own a business, right? Like you recognize that in order to, potentially manage a ranch or own a ranch someday, there's more to it. Like you said, than just riding a horse all day and running cows around. Like there's the business side of things that you can learn from owning any kind of business, and a carpet cleaning business is one way to kind of do that. Super heavily like service based. I guess as you got into the carpet cleaning thing, was there like some training? Like who did you reach out to for? Kenyon's a great resource. We've had him on the podcast a couple of times, but who kind of helped you learn how to clean carpets? I guess how did you learn how to start doing that? So
Kenyon helped us a little bit. Kenyon was a good resource. The guy that we bought the business from, part of the agreement was he would kind of, in a sense, hold my hand for 6 months and walk me through it and whatever. His name's Benson Morales. And he's treated us really, really good. And he helped us. I mean, I still could call him right now and be like, hey, I've got this question. How do I do this or whatnot? And he'll still help us. But he basically was the one that kind of taught me it and the ins and outs and all that other stuff. And so if it wasn't for him, we would have had a lot rockier start. I've made a lot more mistakes than I have. But he kind of helped the transition go pretty smooth. And because of him, it wasn't that hard of a learning curve.
I gotcha. So. What's been the biggest challenge? I helped Kenyon, when Kenyon was still doing the carpet cleaning kind of in conjunction with the restoration company. I worked for Kenyon for a summer, just like cleaning carpets. it can be a huge challenge, like dealing with people and sometimes dealing with like frustrated customers for whatever reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the product you're providing, but they could have been frustrated with the timing of it or whatever it might be. What's been the biggest challenge that you've seen, dealing in a heavily like customer service based industry?
Honestly, I would say finding employees is probably the biggest challenge. It's extremely hard to find somebody that is able to think on their own and come up with because you have new situations every single day with customers and this and that. And obviously nobody's perfect. I'm not going to claim that we do a fantastic job 1000% of the time. I mean, mistakes happen and stuff with new employees and whatnot. And it's really hard to find somebody that's willing to think on their own and work through issues and problems and situations and whatnot. And we've actually been really blessed. We haven't had very many unhappy customers se. They've all been pretty understanding and pretty awesome. And I try and go out of my way to make things right. If we end up having to get a call back or something like that, which doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while it does, and I try and make it right, either knock off the bill or obviously I'll come do it for free or something like that. But I would say that biggest issue that I've had with Green Machine is finding good, reliable help.
Yeah. You hit at a unique thing that I think a lot of service companies, so carpet cleaning, restoration, plumbers, electrician, whatever it might be, a lot of service companies, I think, miss the mark on this. Is they themselves, the business owner, are great technicians, right? They know how to plumb a house, or they know how to clean a carpet really, really well, or they hire employees that are really, really good technicians. But I think what's more important, at least again, outside looking in, I don't own a company, but the customer service aspect has been even more so important, and being able to like think on your feet, because every situation is unique. And you can have somebody that's a really, really good technician, but if something doesn't, something outside of their control happens that doesn't go within their plan of how things are supposed to go, they sometimes can crumble under those situations. And I think it's just something that a lot of service-based companies miss when they're hiring, or when they themselves are like, I want to start a company. They're great technicians, but they're not great with people, or like they're not good at problem solving when problems arise. And that can be a huge, huge issue and a huge wrench into your business. Yeah.
The one thing that I've found is with customers is you got to set expectations. Like the walkthrough is huge.
Yeah.
And if you go like, if they've got some bad carpet or anything really, you say, we like your carpet's pretty trashed.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a lot of it up, but it's not going to go back to normal, or it's not going to do this. Or we could say like with like pet spots. Sometimes if the pet spots, if we treat a pet spot and the carpet's light colored, what happened is browning, where the spot will come back up. And if it doesn't dry quick enough or whatnot. And so then we'll tell them like, hey, we'll do our best. We'll do some extra dry strokes, yada, yada, yada. But if this happens, call us back and we'll come back and fix it. And so I've learned that if you set expectations and talk to them and communicate and whatnot, 9 times out of 10, if something does go wrong or whatever, they're more than willing to call us and be like, hey, this happened. And they're super chill and super cool about it. But like, as far as the technicians and stuff, it's crazy to me. Like that has been a huge eye opener to me, because I don't know if it's like because of my ranching background or whatever, but I've had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own. And I think it's actually a talent, is learning how to problem solve and just think through things and just do it. Like I've had a couple of technicians that are really good at carpet cleaning. And carpet cleaning is not that hard. Like once you know the basics of carpet cleaning, it's really not that hard. We have the best cleaning solutions and the best equipment you can have. So that takes care of a lot of stuff. It's the problem solving that they have an issue. And I didn't realize that until I bought the business, but that's been kind of frustrating. And I'm like, man, it's like you have an issue. here's how you just problem solve, like just figure it out. But they don't. And I'm like, man. And so that's one thing I've noticed is a lot of the problem solving skills is, I wouldn't say lacking in this younger generation, but it's definitely not prevalent. And
right.
And that's just odd to me. I didn't realize that until I own this business, but it's a huge part, because like I said, you run into different problems all the time, and
every day,
and I'm not there. So you just got to figure it out, Right.
But, well, and you're an owner operator. So like you're out on your own jobs, you're taking care of your own problems. And so you can't be answering phone calls all day, every day, solving other people's problems. Like you've got developing, I've called them, and other people around me call them soft skills. Like a soft skill like that. There are hard skills like, how I clean carpet. What do I got to do X, Y, and Z to clean a carpet? Like that's a hard skill that you can learn. Someone can teach you. You can read a textbook, whatever. But there are these soft skills like working with people, being able to problem solve, like that are, it's harder to teach those. In your life, so you mentioned a little bit that like ranching has kind of helped you develop that skill set. Do you feel like that was something you kind of had naturally, like the problem solving ability, or has it been more like nature, like that's who you are? Or do you feel like it's been more nurture, like you've had to develop that throughout your life?
I would say probably develop it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know, because for the most part, I enjoy working on my own, and I don't like, me personally, I don't like to be micromanaged. I prefer to be like, here's a job, go figure it. I want results, go figure it out. And so I think a little bit of both, I guess, because out of necessity, where there is no one else to help me, I'm by myself. So I got to figure it out, or it doesn't get done. And then that's just kind of who I am. But I would say, since I've owned this company, I have refined those skills way more than I ever have before, because I mean, my dad's not around. He's trucking and doing his own thing. And so it's up to me to figure it out. And so I would say I have honed those skills a lot more the last couple of years than any other time. Yeah. But I think a little bit of both, honestly. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think 100% there's probably some natural tendencies there. I think you have some natural, leadership and people skills and problem solving skills. But I think, there's also part of that, like you have to develop, like you have to get better at those things. You started, and this kind of, I think, relates to all this and the challenge with hiring and stuff as well, but you started a business at a kind of a weird time. We didn't realize it was going to be a weird time in 2019, but it ended up being like, the last 2.5 years have been some of the craziest times I think anybody has ever seen. What's been a challenge for you, and how have you overcome dealing with like a global pandemic? Has it been harder for you to get into people's homes to clean their carpets? I'm sure it's been hard to hire, like you've mentioned. Like, what's been like a challenge that you've had to overcome the last couple of years, like just in your industry? Or has there even been a challenge? Maybe it hasn't really affected you guys all that much. Oddly enough, I thought the pandemic would have drastically reduced our business. Yeah. Oddly enough, there wasn't really a downside. If anything, I think we got called more often, like to sanitize stuff. Yeah. And things like that. But we offer such a wide variety of services, between air duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, carpet, tile, hardwood. We clean chimneys. Suck out installation. We do anything that makes money. That's a great way to think of it. Yeah. And so we get calls all the time for just stuff like that. And so honestly, it hasn't been that hard as far as business. I would say, honestly, the number one issue by far is finding good, reliable help. And it seems as soon as I get someone that's good and reliable, something else comes along that they want to do. Yeah. And which, go for it. I don't expect people to work for me and slave away and whatnot. If you wanted to do something different with your life and progress and whatever, and I'm all for it. I'll help you all I can. Yeah. It seems like as soon as I got someone set and someone trained very good and everything's running smoothly, they're like, hey, I got something else I want to do. And I'm like, so brutal. So honestly, I would say it's it's finding help has been the hardest issue. Other than that, I would say it hasn't really been, like, the pandemic deal didn't really affect us a whole lot.
So you mentioned there that, I mean, you guys offer like a wide variety of services. Has that been out of necessity, like just to bring in more revenue streams, or has it been like, we could do that, let's try and do some other things? Because I've noticed it can be hard because you start stretching yourself thin. Like I've talked to people through this podcast and through just, helping them with marketing, that sometimes people can stretch themselves too thin if they start offering too many services.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how have you, has there been a balance that you've found? Why have you decided to offer more services? I guess kind of speak to that a little bit.
So that is something that I've thought about a lot, of whether we're spreading ourselves out too thin and whatnot. The reason so we're mainly a carpet cleaning company first and foremost, in tile and hardwood and the stuff that goes with that. The air ducts and the dryer vents and the chimney cleaning is kind of what I do.
Yeah.
And so we offer that many services because we've had that many people ask us to do that type of stuff.
Okay.
And like the clean the chimney, for example, I wasn't really taught that, didn't really, like, the Benson didn't do that, offer that really. And then I just had enough people call me and ask me if I do that. I said, sure.
Yeah, let's try it.
And I just went and I just figured it out and learned how to do it. And I actually have it's kind of an out of the box system, but I have a really good system that I use to clean it, where I clean where it's not messy and it comes out, like, it cleans it really, really well, that I just had to think of out of the normal. But I am struggling with that. And I have thought about that, to where we offer so many services that it's hard. People don't know that we do this or that or whatnot.
Right.
And so I'm thinking about scaling back a little bit and focusing more on the carpet cleaning and all that other stuff. The reason that we do that, like the chimney cleaning, the dryer vent and whatnot, it's relatively low input as far as costs and whatnot.
Right.
And so that's honestly where I probably make the most money, as far as, like,
your
time.
overhead is low. So why not? Yeah.
So why not? And I'm the one that does it usually. And so I usually schedule my employees for the carpet cleaning and all that other stuff. And then I kind of go do the oddball stuff. And, and it has been an issue with, like, time management, where I get so busy doing the actual work that I tend to let something slip, like working on the business.
Right.
And so I struggle with that all the time. Cause like, I work on a ranch and all that, like my background, I personally don't feel like I'm working if I'm not physically doing something.
Yeah.
So, like, when I need to budget, or when I need to call about invoices, when I need to do that stuff where I'm not physically working, I struggle with that really bad. and so that is a constant struggle, versus how many services we offer and
Right.
advertising, all that other stuff, and whether we could be better served just focusing on a couple versus everything. But
so I'm gonna double down on that a little bit. You mentioned something there that I think is super crucial. I mean, you've been in business for 3 years, but still, like, in the infancy, like, working out some of the kinks with, like you said, like, time management. And if you, as the business owner, if you're not working, like, out there actually cleaning carpets or cleaning chimneys or whatever, you don't feel like you're getting anything done. What are some things you're doing right now to try and develop some of those skills, like managing invoices and managing your team and, like, just growing the business? Are there some things you're doing right now that are helping you do that as you grow the business? Like, what are you doing right now?
I have another thing that I've realized, and I kind of knew this going into it, like, just kind of knew this about myself. I wouldn't say hate. I don't like structure. Like, when I go on vacation, I just want to do what I want when I want. I don't want to have, like, an agenda.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've lived my life. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do. And I tried to do that, and I still struggle a lot with it. I tried to do that for the first year or two, and it didn't work out, and I didn't get done a lot of the stuff that I need to get done. Now I need to, like, have an agenda. Like, I've got to be organized. I got to sit down every night And it's a pain in the butt. I hate doing it, but it's so much more effective. I got to sit down and write down like what I got to do the next day.
Yep.
I got to have a certain time for this and this and this and this. I have a certain week where I just do office work type stuff. I got a certain day of the week where I do a couple of jobs, this and that. So the thing that helps me the most is budgeting my time and sticking to it too. That's another thing is I get calls all the time. Hey, can you do this and this and this? And I want to do it so bad, but I'm like, I gotta be dedicated and stick to it. And it's helped a lot. And I'm still struggling with it. I still have a hard time with it, but the better I am at organizing my life, the more effective and the more efficient I am running the business. So
dude, yeah, you hit it right on the head, man. Like I struggle with that big time. And I know a lot of, people that first start their businesses 100% struggle with that. They just want to go out and do the work, but there's so much more to running a business.
So much more. I thought it would just be like, hey, send out my employees. I'd take calls and they would go do jobs and I'd live a happy hunky dory life and go sip margaritas somewhere.
Yeah.
Freak no, dude. There's so much more into it that I had no idea.
Yep.
Just little things here and there that overall takes up a lot of time. Just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And sitting down, like that's a big time skill that I think a lot of small business owners need to work on is like schedule your time, schedule out your days. Time management is crucial. And like, that's one simple step that anybody can do. Anybody, if they're just say, okay, the end of every day, I'm going to sit down and schedule what I'm going to do the next day or what I'm going to do the next week. Let's just build out a schedule and stick to it. And that's going to help me. Yeah. I'm going to budget 2 hours on a Monday to just sit in my office and, collect invoices or make phone calls or whatever. Or I'm going to schedule an hour a week to train my employees or whatever. Like setting up some time to do that is so, so important and can really help you start growing your business because you're like taking the time for important things. And sticking to your schedule is huge
because every time, I swear, every single time I set something up to where I have I'll put aside a couple hours or a day to do something. Somebody calls and be like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And it's so tempting, but
you're like, oh yeah, sure. I'll come do that job. Yeah.
And I'm a people pleaser. I am a big people pleaser. Like I hate disappointing people, even if I've never met them before. Yeah. Like I just want to help them. And so I struggle with that big time. And but I have realized the more structured I keep my life or set up my life, the way better my life goes and the more efficient and the more effective I am as a person. So I just got to stick to my guns and just keep doing it. But I got this notebook that I carry around with me everywhere.
I've noticed that. Yeah. You always have it
everywhere
with you.
Because you know how many head injuries I've got.
Between playing football with me and riding saddle bronc, like that's
my memory is garbage. So if I think of stuff all the time, like, oh, I need to do this, or I need to call that person, or I need to check up on this, and I got to write it down. And then I spend half an hour each night going over what I wrote down, and I either try and do it that day, the next day, or whatever. And so if I don't do that, I get nothing done.
I'm so bad. I tell my wife all the time, I'm going to have dementia one of these days. So I have got to start writing stuff down.
I swear.
I forget stuff all the time. And so 100%, writing it down, taking little notes, putting stuff in my calendar, it just saves me so much headache in the long run if I just do it. So it's just the way you have to do it. So yeah, you guys are still, I hate saying in the infancy, because you guys have been seems like kicking butt the last couple of years. I want to talk a little bit about how you've kind of grown your business and grown some of the accounts that you guys service. So I've noticed you guys do quite a bit of commercial work. You clean the floors of several restaurants in the area and do some larger commercial jobs that is consistent revenue for your company. How did you get involved in that? What was the first, when did you start thinking, hey, I want to get into this commercial space? And how did you start getting some of those commercial jobs?
So we had a couple of them before. Benson had a couple of them before.
So when you bought the company, you got those contracts.
Came with it.
Okay.
But I realized during the wintertime, there's about 3-ish months where every time I've talked to Benson, he still kind of keeps in touch with a couple of carpet cleaners and whatnot. And he asked me how busy I am. And I'm like, well, we've only got like 2-3 jobs a day. And he's like, you're busier than everyone else. And I'm like, that's rough then.
Yeah.
But the commercial accounts is what I would like to get way more commercial accounts than we have, because that's kind of what keeps us going through the winter.
Gotcha.
And keeps like consistent, like you said, consistent cash flow coming in. Like we clean Longhorn up in Idle Falls. We clean Smoking Fins, Applebee's up in Rexburg. We clean a couple of hair salons. And those are all once a month ish, every 4 weeks roughly. And that's a big part. I mean, that helps us out a ton. We clean the Targhee Ski Resort top to bottom twice a year. That helps us out big time.
That's awesome.
And so the more commercial, I mean, honestly, in a perfect world, I would do nothing but commercial, because you don't really have to deal with customers.
Yeah.
You just get in, get out, do your job, and you're done.
That's awesome.
And so the more commercial accounts that I can get, the better. And this kind of comes back to like knocking doors on my mission. I didn't knock a whole lot, but I knocked enough. And I'll just go to businesses throughout the day when they're kind of slower and whatnot, and just say, hey, do you need your carpets cleaned? And just kind of like do it that way is how I've been getting them. That's
what I was going to talk about. That's how you're getting those jobs. You're legitimately just going and walking in and just saying, hey, can I talk to somebody about cleaning carpets?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool, man. I think so many people are intimidated by that. And I've had a theory that it's always been pretty simple like that. But I think people are like, oh no, you got to go out and build relationships and shake hands and kiss babies and like all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, I think if you just showed up, say, hey, can I clean your carpets? Or hey, can I do this service for you? If you do that often enough, the law of averages says you're going to get some jobs.
I've never had anybody flat out like be an a-hole about it and say like, get the freak out. Like everyone will either say, no, I think we're good. Thank you. Or 9 times out of 10 people are like, yeah, send me an estimate and let's do something. And cool. Most of the time, if I can talk to the manager, I generally can get the job.
That's cool.
You just got to go do it. And I don't do it nearly as much as I should. Like, honestly, I should spend probably 1 day a week
just
going and doing that. But I don't. And
it's hard to find time.
I still got, like I said, I still got to budget my time better. I'm not nearly as good at it as I should be, but that's one thing I had to do. But that's mostly how we've been able to grow our business. Is I'll either send out an employee that during the off time when he doesn't have any jobs during the winter, I'll go do it myself. And it's pretty, all we got to do is ask. What are they going to do? Say no?
Yeah. 100%. Like the worst they say, no, sorry, I've got somebody else doing it, or no, we don't need that. And you're like, okay, man, see you later. And you go knock on another door, or you go talk to somebody else. Like it seems so straightforward and simple. And I think that's almost what frightens people from it. They're like, oh, it can't be that easy. But in a lot of cases, it is.
It is.
If you just go ask people, like you're going to get some yeses.
Yep.
You're going to get some no's, but you're going to get some yeses. If you do it often enough, people are going to be like, sure, yeah, come clean my floors. Mm-hmm. Let's do it. And yeah, like you said, if it could turn into once a month work that is like revenue that you can bank on, that I think ultimately makes your business more attractive in the future to possibly sell it down the road, or just makes it more valuable, because you can say, hey, we've got 50 commercial contracts that, we're cleaning them all once a month, and that equals this amount of revenue. And then you can sometimes estimate the amount of other residential jobs or whatever. Like it really just helps you start to scale your business.
Yep.
Makes it really, really cool. So Taylor, let's talk a little bit as we I don't want to take too much more of your time, but let's talk a little bit about the future. What does the future look like for Green Machine? What are you hoping? I mean, you guys have been in business now for 3 years and some change. What's the goal for you eventually? Are you hoping to do this for forever, or you want to retire a carpet cleaner?
Absolutely not.
What's the goal for the future?
Well, like I said, I went in partnership with my dad, going into it knowing I wasn't going to do this for ever.
Right.
Honestly, ideally, in a perfect world, I would find someone that would manage it for me and run it for me. And then they could have most of the profit, as long as there's a certain amount of money in the bank account. They could have all the profit, and I just take like $500 a month or something like that. Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think
At least not anytime soon.
I don't think I'm going to find anybody like that'd run it for me and whatnot. And so honestly, I think, cause since we bought it, we've about doubled what we bring in every year. And so I think what I'm probably going to end up doing is run it for another year or so and then maybe sell it, or I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I have been using, or I am using this business to kind of start up a couple other stuff. I got a couple other stuff in the works that I'm working on. And so I have been grateful because it's allowed me to start up some other businesses and stuff that I'm potentially working on. But I don't know. I think maybe a year or two max and then sell it. Or I'd love to find someone to run it for me. I don't think that's going to happen, but so I think I'm probably going to end up having to sell it.
Gotcha. So. Well, I think the more that you talk about it and the more that you continue to try and grow it, I think the easier it's going to be to sell, right? Like the more that you guys build systems and hire good employees and, get those commercial contracts and develop the business, like the easier it's going to be for you to sell it in the long run and hopefully, sail away into the sunset on a ranch somewhere, right? Like that's the ultimate goal, right?
I don't know if I want to own a ranch anymore. I value my time so much now. Like I rodeo every weekend and I want to be able to get away for like my kids' activities and stuff like that. And when you own a ranch, you are married to it and
that's true.
Handcuffed to it. I don't want to feed cows every winter. All day. I don't know what I want to do yet. I want to do something Western, start colts or go day work, or I don't know what I want to do yet, but I don't know if it's owning a ranch, but it's got to do something Western.
That's
something
cool.
With a horse. So
man. Well, that's really, really cool, man. I appreciate you letting me kind of pick your brain for a little while and learn a little bit about Green Machine, but I want to wrap up. I'm going to ask you a few questions here. Okay. I'm going to ask you the same 3 questions I ask everybody that comes on the podcast. I know we've got a lot of really cool insights from you here. And so I want to finish up with these 3 questions. So first question, book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now that you really like.
The Ed Milet Show.
Okay. Awesome. Sweet.
I love him.
That's sweet.
I listen to him every day.
That is one of the first repeat mentions that we've got. Kenyon mentioned.
Really?
Ed Milet. Yep.
I listen to him all the time.
That's awesome.
I love him.
Okay. What's your favorite thing that he talks about? I
just like how positive he is all the time. Like that's a manly dude. You can tell listening to him, but he's like, man, I love you guys. Like, I want you guys to be happy. Like, he's just so positive and so happy and outgoing. And like, he just makes me want to be better. Like, just makes me look at the positive outside of life of things. I'm like, man, I really am blessed. I got all these issues and I think my life's crap. But if I really step back and look at it, I'm blessed, like beyond measure. And he just kind of helps me see that. And he helps me start off the day positive. So I just like his message and he's just happy, positive all the time. So
that's so much content on the internet, especially, I'm not talking bad about it, but guys that look like Ed are like, be tougher. You're a wuss, like all this crap. And it's so refreshing. I haven't listened to him a lot, but a few of his clips. So so positive, so supportive to like people that come on. Yeah. I love you guys. Let's work together. Let's do this. Like, just seems like a really, really cool guy.
I'll listen to him forever.
That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, second question. You talked a lot about how busy you are. Weekends you're rodeoing. During the week you're trying to manage and run a business. Taylor, the end of a long, stressful day. You've got a lot going on in your life. How do you relax at the end of a long day? Generally, most of the time I don't have time to work out or do anything until I get home, whatever time that is. And a lot of time it's dark. So I'll either go for a run, a quick little run, or I'll go jump on my horse bareback and take him for a walk, and I'll just lay on him and just look at the stars and just like relax and just let go of the day.
So I don't do that as much as I would like to, but that is like the ultimate, like that really grounds me, I guess. So
That's cool. We had a guest come on a couple of weeks ago that talked about having time in your day for, he called it like white space or white noise. And like, yeah, just being able to just shut off your brain, do something that allows you to do that. So yeah, going for a jog, great way to do that. Riding your horse. I do things like I'll fish, or like even something as dumb as just like watch like a mindless like TV show. Like I'll go watch like Parks and Rec or some like dorky TV show that'll just let me just like shut my brain off and just allow me to just like relax for a little bit. And that's always been pretty helpful. So, okay. Last question, and I'll stop harassing you. If you could rewind to the beginning of your career with Green Machine, or maybe it's your beginning of your career ranching, whatever it might be, rewind and you could tell younger Taylor one thing, what would that one thing be?
Oh, just one.
Invest in Apple. Buy stock. No.
One thing. Shoot, dang. I would have to say, go a little easier on yourself.
Okay.
I think this is true with everybody. You're your own worst critic and you beat yourself up over. I would say focus less on what you're doing wrong and more on what you're doing right, and build on that and be positive about it, instead of focus on what you're doing wrong and the decisions you made that were bad and dwell on that and the negativity. I would say focus on what you're doing right and go up from there.
That's cool, man. That's some great advice for anybody. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. I think we're all that way, especially in the grind of like the business world. I think a lot of people are just way too hard on themselves. And, almost to a person, everybody that I've asked that question has said something similar to that. Like, really? Don't be so hard on yourself. Like, you can work hard and grind and do all of those things that everybody says you got to do, but like, don't be so hard and relax a little bit, and everything will work out. So pretty cool. Yeah. Well, Taylor, thanks again for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it, man. I think you've given a lot of really awesome insights for our listeners, and I know they're going to be excited to check this one out. So
hopefully they took something away. This wasn't just the mindless activity that they do at night.
No. This isn't going to be mindless. They're going to listen to this and love it, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Subscribe on any major podcast platform, or check out our website at successonpoint.com.